Hey everyone, welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev.
Good morning.
Good morning. So it's a process because we do this live in a Facebook group while we're doing this recording. So I get through all that whole process, then hit record. So my friends on Facebook, thank you for your patience for those first few seconds. Thank you everyone for being here, whether you're watching the replay or joining us live. We appreciate you and we enjoy doing this. And so here we are, Tuesday. It's October 19th for us. Recording comes out on the 21st. I had to do my math. I'm like, what's +2? I entertain myself. Don't worry about it. You don't have to laugh at me. You just think I'm a little off my rocker. It's okay. How are you, Miss Bev?
I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Good. I mean, better than good. You know, it is better than well, or
it really is. It's a habit,
really
right?
is.
To say I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, it is. But it feels different.
Here's right. And that's what I was going to say is that typically in past, somebody says, how are you? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Feel the energy? Well,
yeah.
When somebody asks me now, I'm like, hey, I'm good. Smile. Yeah. Higher energy. So it is different. And yes, it is more than good. I'm blessed. So much gratitude. So my heart's full. So not completely full. There's more room for more. Always.
It's funny that you say gratitude because I've really been drawn to watching near-death experiences, and because me and like a million other people, we can feel energy and we can feel through their experiences. And I feel like the reason that a lot of us are so blessed knowing that we're empaths, it's an opportunity to experience what someone else is talking about or what they're sharing with you. Before, it would have been something I would have shut off if someone had started talking about negative stuff, what I would have perceived as negative. It didn't feel good to me. And now I'm in a different space that I can sit and listen to them and know that this is just where their story's at, but I get the opportunity to experience the same thing they're talking about right now. I can feel it just like they can feel it. So it's awesome. But these near-death experiences, there's been a couple of them I've heard now that when they notice that they're on, and they can see through. Some of them have been shown a door that they can, it's cracked open. They can see what heaven looks like, and they talk about how everything in there, the trees, every single droplet of water, everything is like celebrating God, like appreciating gratitude towards God. And God being the creator of all it is, not in a religious sense by any means. And I don't mean that in any way. You can take it however you would like to. But for me, it's so much bigger than that. To me, there's confines in religion. And in this place, there's no such thing. There's no judgment by God, and all these people that go through, have these experiences, they're so afraid that they're going to be so judged by the choices they've made or the things they've done. And it's like, we're our biggest judges. We are our biggest critics. We're the hardest on ourselves. I heard a son say to a mom, I died one time, but you've lived it over 300 times. Like, I died once. And something else that needs to be said is, it's so easy for us to be on the side and grieving. And sometimes I feel like we think we have to grieve. We have to be a certain way because this is how it's perceived by everybody. Everybody's on their own journey and their own experience. But the way it was stated was, would your loved one, if you were the one that passed and they stayed here, would you want them crying all the time, sad over you? No, that's not. And it's so easy to, and I have my children, but it's so easy to be in that place of that great loss of that individual being there, that we miss out on that they're there still. But it's like they live through us. They are the other side. I say the other side, but they're not another side. They're just not in a physical body. They celebrate every single thing that we do. It doesn't matter whether we consider it bad or good. It's an accomplishment. They celebrate us all the time. And it's like, why would we live here in a grieving process or crying all the time or beating ourselves up with grief and regret? And why? Because you're punishing yourself, just like that child had said, I died once. and you've relived it over 300 times. I'm sure probably more than that, but
I say
that's
more.
just an example.
Right.
Exactly, but as an example, and it's like that doesn't represent who they are.
Right. And we do that with our own life.
Yes.
Like we lived through the experience, but I've 50,000 times I've relived that. And probably more. I have to say, probably more. I've relived that experience. And this is, I love reading and hearing about near death experiences. Like I just love it. I love knowing like past lives, that we get to come back, that we reemerge into our true self, our true spirit, pure love. We get to be with the creator, and that our loved ones are on their side, on the other side. They have their own journeys, even in spirit, they still have their own journeys, but because it is energy, because it's a spirit, they can be, part of their energy can be with us celebrating because they were such a huge part of our life. And while they're on the other side, they're still creating in their own experience in spirit. And yeah, the amount of emotion that we experience through the guilt, the shame, the anger, and it's in a lot of cases I get it about having guilt of somebody passing, crossing over. I get it. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying it's not real. But it's all those emotions, such low vibrational emotions, keep us from experiencing our own life. And our spirit, even in the experience of the transition of a loved one or friend, our spirit still wants to embrace life, still wants to play, still wants to celebrate, still wants to love. And but what happens with death is we shut down. Our human side shuts down. And we don't allow ourselves, we don't allow our spirit to shine. And that's really damaging to ourselves. And it just comes back to, I'm not worthy of, I'm not deserving of, I am not good enough for. So yeah, I'm with you. I've experienced a transition of like a grandmother, grandparents, great grandparents, second cousin, great uncle. The one that was closest to me, that really affected me in a huge way, because I lived it in my head from 14 to my mid 30s. So at least 21 years, I lived in my head about suicide. I thought about it almost like every day. And then a babysitter that I had for my son called her, asked her to babysit for me. She said, no, I have other plans. I said, okay. Like 3 hours later, I got a call that she shot herself. And so even in that, as heavy as it is, and as traumatizing as it is for everyone involved, it is still important for us to live our life, to embrace life, to love, to laugh, to have fun, to create new relationships, to be and do better in ourselves. And we use a death experience of a loved one or friend that I'm not allowed to be happy anymore. I'm not allowed to love anymore. I'm not allowed to laugh anymore. And it's really heavy for our spirit, because that's not who we are.
No, it means to love more. It means to laugh more. It means to, however you want to do it, but it's like to be in that space of joy, because they're with us anyways, because we're their heaven. We're part of their heaven as well. even though we think that we're in this miserable place, which it's not, because this is such a glorious place because we get to grow. Guess what? We get to be here. There's so many that want to be in here right now that aren't here right now. They're, you know, probably just waiting for a body to get in here or whatever's going on. And there's been some changes right now that maybe some things have slowed down a little bit, but it's like, we get to be here. We're here for a reason, every single one of us. And that's the thing that people forget. We have purpose, all of us. And one of the stories, and maybe I kind of brought it up last week, because I've been reading a lot of books and I've been listening to a lot of, you know, a lot of just, it's amazing how much time I have that I'm no longer messing with Facebook really at all. And it's not because I don't appreciate everybody that's on there. It just isn't my, I don't feel a need to be on there. I feel a need to do other things. So this is where I'm at. But one of the experiences this nurse had had, or she had gone into this near-death experience, and she at one point she's shown by God that, you know, this person, and she's like, oh God, you know, she's thinking this person was such a horrible nurse, and or what her words were, wasn't a very good nurse. She was judgmental of her, and she was, you know, she just had an opinion about her, and she didn't understand really why. Well, then God says, let me show you the rest of her life. And she had gone through so much in her life. The lady now is like, I'm surprised this gal wasn't a serial killer. Like, she had gone through so much in her life that she was doing the best that she could. But it was also showing her that the thoughts that we think about someone else, it's an energy. And what I described to one of my clients is like pin the tail on the donkey, right? Not that we're all asses or donkeys or anything like that, but if each one of those tails had like love or hate or, you know, disgruntled or disrespectful or, you know, repulsed or whatever the words are, and you're taking that and you're pinning that now on that person's energy, you're like adding more strain to somebody that's already just struggling to be where they're at right now. So it really put it into, I mean, I do understand that we're all connected, and I understand that words have power, but I guess I just never realized how strong it can be for us to send out energy. So now it's like, I love everybody. I just do. I mean, it's a lot of this stuff has really changed my perspective on everything. I love everything. A big part of my transformation I've noticed is I don't like to harm animals. I don't like to, I mean, not that I ever harmed animals, but like bees and ants, or I mean, any of this stuff, I just let them, they have their own, this is their journey. Like I go out and feed the bees at least a couple times a day with some sugar water and stuff to help support, because we don't have a lot of flowers out here and stuff, but it's like I'm doing things that I feel drawn to do. Not because I have to, it's because I'm drawn to, but it's like, I have such a bigger perspective of things. I'll sit out there and just watch all the bees. I mean, I'm like right with them, and there's like thousands of bees probably at a time, but it's like, I'm not worried. I'm not afraid. I just watch how they all work with each other and what they're doing. I'll watch the ants. I watch all these little small details that are but they're so huge. It's just even shuffling my cards this morning and I'm putting them together. I could feel how they were just gliding together, you know, eating our foods. It's like Remy makes amazing breakfast burritos. And it's like, there's so many, before I would never have noticed these things, but there's like a crunchy, there's a soft, there's so many textures to it that it's like a glorious burrito. Like these are the things that I get to experience now. And it's wonderful. And like, it's just so wonderful.
Yep. And that, you know, when it comes to the person who's having a bad day, the person who flips you off in traffic, the person who's just looks grumpy, I've been there, right? I know what that feels like. And putting on the mask to people close to me to make, you know, can't make them believe, but to believe that I was okay, when inside there was so much chaos going on. And, you know, now when I look at somebody, it's through the eyes of compassion. Man, you know, an 80-year-old who's hunched over, moving slow, grumpy face. I don't know his story. I can't even imagine what the story is. And to look at somebody, that person who flips you off in traffic, maybe they just got divorce papers, or maybe their wife's in the hospital, or their kid got injured, who knows? I don't know. There's millions and millions of stories out there. And so the best thing that I feel I can do is, like you were saying, is to love them, to just, give them some space, send them that loving energy, smile at them, even if they flip you off for smiling at them. You know what? I was guided to do that. I was guided to smile at this person. They didn't receive it. That's okay. But it helped me feel good. And you don't have to talk to them. Just send them loving energy. I hope whatever you're going through right now, is there's some ease in it for you, or whatever you've been through. I hope that, I pray that you, that you could see that the lessons in it is to help you be and do better. I mean, or that that there are people out there experiencing the same thing as you. It was just saying your own prayers for them. You don't have to talk to them. The people who show up at work every day pissed off at the world, don't know their story. Yeah, they're probably going to take it out on you. Okay. If I'm strong in my faith, if I'm strong in my love for me, if I'm strong in how I see myself, that I acknowledge my own worth and value, let them have a bad day. If they need somebody to lash out, I have strong shoulders. I have strong shoulders. So now I'm like, all right, you need somebody to lash out at. I'm in a space, I'm not going to take it personal, because I know it's not about me. So compassion, what I found though, is that when I started experiencing more compassion is when I learned to forgive. And that forgiveness, when I put my name at the top of the list, wow. Right? We just do what we know how to do. We do what we know. We do the things we do with the information and knowledge that we have. So I give ease and grace to that younger version of me. And now today, be and do better because of it.
Exactly. You brought up forgiveness. I had a client recently, and it was so easy for me to see it, because once we're more calm, and to me, the calm is just an easy way to describe it. It's just when you're quiet, you're listening, you're really seeing, so you see so much more. It's not even just what they're saying. You see their energy. You see their soul, honestly. And I had this one gal, and she was telling me that, I keep asking for forgiveness. And she says, I haven't moved past it. And I said, it's because you're asking yourself for that forgiveness. You're thinking that you want that forgiveness from God or from something else, but you want that forgiveness from yourself. I said, it's learning to forgive yourself, really, because that was a big deal for me. And it's something that I do quite frequently. It's it's something else. I'm going to bring up this book again. So The Past Lives by Mira, because for some reason, I don't want to get past this book, and I'm going to have to start reading it all over again because I don't want to get past this book. But she has such valuable information by her experiences of putting someone through past life regressions, and then, just how she's perceived things and how she helps people to help themselves, because you have to want to help it. I have a person that comes into me and she's like, every time I come see you, that problem is gone. I no longer have that problem any longer. Well, that's because she has an expectation that she knows her words are that when she comes in, she knows she's going to see me. We're going to solve the problem. She's going to be healed, and that's it. I have others that say, oh, I feel good right this minute, but by tomorrow, they're already setting up themselves with their words, but we don't recognize that. One of these people that I listened to, I kind of wandered away from Beyond Past Lives, but I listened to, she said that she would start a conversation with a person. It's so nice to see you. I'm so glad that you came in today. I'm so glad that I get to share this interaction with you. And then listening to the person and then hearing what they're saying, using those words. Well, this is what I'm hearing that you're saying. Is this what you're meaning? And it's like, for me, it was a different perspective. And then finishing again with, it's so nice that you came in. I'm so glad you came to talk to me, which was huge. So that was just someone else I was listening to for healing. But Mira Kelly guides you through being back in your mom's womb, back in that womb, and then creating what you want it to look like. We all didn't have maybe what we would like to see now, but we have a different perspective of what we've experienced. So it's like going back to that womb and like feeling everything that you like, feeling all the love from your mom, and then feeling the love from your dad, and then feeling everybody coming into the space and loving you, like feeling all this love, like all the time, feeling your mom holding you, even though you're not in her arms, she's holding you with her arms, in your belly, in her belly. And then like going through this whole process of expectations, how you see your life going, and how you would see it differently. What kind of things would you do now that are different from what you had experienced? And, going through all these processes, what are some milestones that you might see? And it's like, now, once you get through that whole process, is to get into this place where you're integrating that person into you. Because there's nothing that stops us from being all those things that we just created. There's nothing except for us. We don't realize it. Even as I'm sitting here having the conversation, I have to remind myself, lean back more, take a deep breath, because I noticed that I might be holding my breath. So it's just taking a breath. And then I ask the creator, flow through me what you want to talk about. I mean, what is the conversation? What do people need to hear? What right this minute? So it's like, but it's a constant reminder. And these are things that I never did before because I was too busy worried about, oh shit, she said that. I don't have a pen and paper right now. That's probably why my eyes, they're right here. And I have to put those on to write down what I want to write down. And it's like, I don't want to do all that stuff. So it's like, I just don't. So I sit back and I just sit back more, just relax more. Cause it's like, there's so much information to flow through us, so much that we restrict. And it's like going back to that whole process. And it was so awesome to now my process is, if I felt like I ever did anything wrong with my children, it's like starting from birth. Now I'm giving them all that love because I had a lot of trauma that I was working through or not working through. I was just living life. I wasn't thriving, and giving them all that love and feeling them and seeing them as with their milestones. So right now I'm integrating that. If I can pin the tail on a donkey and I can put whatever I want to tag to that person, there's probably a better analogy, but that's just what came to my mind. So it's like, yeah, it probably isn't the best, but here we are, people. So it's like, I noticed that I just give them all this love. I give them all this love because the bottom line is, I don't know how long they're with me. I don't. I may outlive a few, and I want to live every moment, enjoy every moment. I don't care what kind of space they're in. I don't care. And I'm not saying I don't care that they're hurting or they're sad or anything like that. I welcome them to be around me no matter what that looks like. I welcome it because I don't know how long they're here. I'm going to celebrate them because I see their soul. I see something so much bigger than this tiny little moment with my blinders on and seeing only what's happening right this moment. But everything is so much bigger. There's like so much. It's wonderful.
And I feel like the near-death experience stories, those people who have experienced it, like they're angels in human form, so to speak, that they're coming back and sharing their stories and saying, just like what you're saying, there's so much more going on here than y'all know, right? y'all a bunch of dumbasses because you're not getting it.
But we were trained that way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That just creates separation. It's just the training. And we're so much bigger.
Yes. And that's generational training. It's you, if you look back to the generations, the belief systems, the habits, the patterns, the stuff they went through. I mean, they went through a lot of traumatic stuff for where they were in the era and what they had at that time. And you got to consider, like, the history of your generations is trickled over time to each generation, changing and changing and changing, but still there's still stuff there that we haven't reprogrammed in ourselves, that we haven't taken the time to say, yeah, that belief doesn't work for me anymore. Because that's not true. A prime example: get a job, stay at it for 30 years, get a retirement, get your pension, whatever, you got benefits. Well, that's not an exact true story anymore. That's not a true belief anymore, because a lot of corporations don't want to keep you that long. They want fresh, they want new, they want create new creativity, they want new fresh ideas. And so we got to take a look at our belief systems about life, about how we're perceiving our life, how we're perceiving ourselves. And a near-death experience says unconditional love is the answer. That's who we are, spirit and body. That's our true nature. And we're human. So we do come and have a human experience to feel all the emotions, that the low vibrational emotions, and if we choose, we can experience the higher vibrational emotions. We can love, or we can love and we can love unconditionally. Loving unconditionally, it's like doing inner work, going, God, that's hard. That's hard to love somebody. That's hard to look at a murderer who, killed a child, to love him unconditionally. It's hard to, look at a rapist and love him unconditionally, or her, love them unconditionally. And so it's a choice for sure. And our ego says they don't deserve it. Our ego also says, I don't deserve it. So now we have this power struggle of who deserves unconditional love and who doesn't. Spirit, unconditional love across the board. Am I saying that I do this? Am I good at unconditional love? No. Am I practicing? Yes. And that's what we're expected to do, is practice. That's all I would ask anybody, is just practice it. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. Just like learning how to write and read and ride a bike and run. The more you practice, the better you get. And it's a check yourself, because who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? I don't know their story. I don't know their upbringing. I don't know what their belief systems are. I don't know how they were treated. But when I take a look at my own life and my own stories, I can have more compassion for where they're at in their life. I just come back to compassion. Compassion's been a huge.
Very true. And then you gain such, oh, sorry.
Compassion has been a big topic for me for a couple of years.
It's more of a natural thing than it isn't. Like we've talked about, it feels like we're separate, but we're not. None of us are separate from each other. None of us. And it's like there's such huge things. People wonder why there's tsunamis and why there's these mass killings and stuff, but it's not. It's, if you want to stay focused on just what had happened, the bigger picture is that it created a higher vibration. It brought people together. I don't know if I talked about it. One of the things that a psychic had asked these people, like, why was there so many people that passed during a tsunami in Asia, a few years back? Like there was like 100,000 people that had transitioned at that time. And it's like they all knew coming in they were going to be here for a block of time, and it was to raise the energy vibrational frequency. If they hadn't done it at that point, that they were going to be departing. And with their departure, they actually had raised the vibration. I mean, it was because it brought people together. It brought people praying. It brought the idea of the prayer. We can go back to last week and probably the week before. It's not a prayer from a worry place. It's a prayer from, I know that there's a bigger plan here. Things are working out, and I just send love and light to everybody there. And if there's a way that I can help, if there's a way that I can be of assistance to people, then show me what we get guidance all the time. Also being aware that, sometimes we want to be in service and stuff like that, but we don't know what that looks like yet, because there's still some internal work that we need to do. It's just it's hard to show people all this love, but you don't love yourself. So it's like, it's just people do it all the time, but they don't realize that you're not giving it to your own self, that there's a lacking. It could be so much more powerful than it is right this moment. You can make
Yeah.
it so different than how it is right now, how it feels right now. And that goes back to, putting energy or sending thoughts to someone else. It's like being in that space. It's not being in a space of worry, like, oh my God, they're gonna die, or oh my God, whatever your sadness is or your grief is, or I didn't get to say this. There's nothing that stops you from saying it now. There's nothing that stops it from even if that person's has left their physical body, there's nothing that stops you from having those conversations. There's nothing that stops you from seeing an example of what you're going through and seeing how it could be different. Because at that moment, that relationship's still happening. And you still get to, you're now experiencing that. If you can believe it in your mind and see it, you both are experiencing that because they're with you with their energy. It doesn't matter. I can hug my mom, my brother, Jim. I mean, they're all with me. My grandmothers, my grandfathers. It's like there's nothing that stops any of that stuff. It goes on forever. So it's like getting past those grieving feelings, past all that emotion, and just sending that love. Like you'll know when you start to get to that place where you're starting to feel all that love within your own heart. It's so big, and then it's like that person that you see that's not happy or grumpy, just see yourself walking over and hugging that person. It doesn't mean you go over and hug that person, because for me, on an energy level, I can hug that person. I can visually see just so much energy going from my heart to their heart, and it's not just from my heart, I'm connected to all that is, so all that is flowing from me to this person. And it's like, it's so uplifting. And then what if they got a little bit of a smile and their family notices it, and it touches their heart, and now they're lifting that person up. It's just it's such a journey. Like, all of us is such a journey, and we look at such a big thing of jobs and what we can accomplish and what we can have. And we didn't come here just to work our asses off and die. That was never the intention, ever. That is totally out of balance. That's out of harmony with your soul. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to go sit in the cave for the next 20 years and not have any type of communication or touching or anything with anybody else. That's not what we're here for. We're here to experience these things. We're here to love. We're here to touch, and sometimes some things feel uncomfortable to us or they hurt, but we get to see them differently, because it's like we don't pin it to us. When someone else thinks something, we don't claim it, because you don't have to. You don't have to take on anything that anybody else believes. And we've been doing it for a long time. Many people have been doing it for a long time. And it's just finding that place that feels good for you. No matter what, when you make a decision about something, it's your decision. It's not, you can allow someone else to talk you out of it. You can feel what their desire is. For instance, if I tell someone that I'm no longer going to be providing massage, this is the last appointment, thank you, but I wanted at least one more appointment. And it's like, I could feel it inside me. Oh, we just wanted one more appointment. But it's not about that, because it's just like me. I have to go looking for whatever pulls my attention, whatever pulls my desires, whatever I resonate with, past lives experiences, near-death experiences, enlightened conversations. I mean, those are all the things that I'm drawn to. We don't have to, when you can start stepping into your own power, I love the person for feeling that way, but it's like, this is their journey, and they've got to start pursuing things. And you can always tell when you give them information, and when they're ready, they'll gravitate to more of that information, and they'll appreciate. And then if they don't, they don't. It's fine, because that's their journey, and I love them anyways.
Yep. That's, as a coach, I had to learn to be in that space. As a coach, even, you coach your clients and what's going on with them. To offer up the information, say, this is some solutions that I can see. These are some inner work exercises that may help. And I've given somebody so much information. I know even for me, it was an overload, and I get that. Pick one. It's okay. Just pick one and practice it. Get really good at it, and then pick another one. However, as a coach, giving somebody the information to help them make a shift in their life, and then I'm not do it. And then see them a couple weeks, few months, and they're coming to me with the same story. Or they're just telling the same story. We could be at a party and they're telling the same story. And of course, I'm like, oh, Jesus, come on. I gave you this tools how long ago? You haven't done anything with it. And then I would take it personal and start questioning myself. Well, am I good enough coach? Did I give them the right information? What is it that they didn't do or what is it that I didn't say or did say that kept them from making this shift in their life, utilizing these tools I gave them? And it was nothing about me. It's about where they're at in their journey. And if they want to hang on to their story, that's their business. That's their right. That is totally up to them. It doesn't define me as a coach. And I have to speak from experience because I've been coached and I've done the same damn thing. It's like, oh, okay, now I get it, right? You honor each person where they're at. Here's the resources. Here's what's helped me, and what they do with it's their business. And have compassion with them where they're at. That we each have to learn in our own way.
Which means you're also having compassion with yourself.
Absolutely. And to be honest, now that I think about it and give attention to it, that I probably really didn't change that much until I had compassion for myself. And when people learn to have compassion for themselves and be easy with themselves, knowing, we know that our little person inside, the little girl in me, has been running the show all this time because she's scared. She wants to be safe. And the only way she knows how to be safe is through survival mode. So she can do whatever she needs to do to survive this life. As the adult, I say, you know what? You are safe because I have so much wisdom now that we're good. It's up to me to keep my little girl safe. And so yes, honoring people where they're at on their journey. Is it easy? Life wasn't about easy. Life was not about easy. Having children was not about easy. Having abundance, not about easy. It's about we have learned, and I'll speak for myself. I have learned so much through the difficult moments than I did through the easy moments. Because the difficult moments brought me to where I am now, to have that forgiveness and compassion and love, practicing unconditional love and honoring other, like what I speak about now is an outcome as a result of the difficult.
It's true. And a lot of these near-death experiences or a lot of these people that I've been listening to recently, it's like most of us have set ourselves up in these situations that someone's going to leave your life because it's for an awakening. Because I think that we think that it has to be a struggle to, you know what I mean? It has to be something that hits us hard that helps us to see that there's so much more. I don't think it has to be that way. I think that maybe we're getting more into a space of, think about that. If I'm looking at, because I think that the passing should be a celebration as well. So when someone transitions from physical to just being in the energy, it needs to be a celebration as well. That's like their birth. They got born back in the spirit, like they're back there. They did what they planned on doing here, however it looks, however you want to see it. But to me, it should be a celebration. And if it comes to that, if we all gravitate towards that area, because I'm planting seeds, I'm going to plant them wherever I go, because I've been experiencing, I've had loss in my life for sure. I would say loss as far as the physical beings in my life. I've gained so much more than that, but I know that now. But it's like if we just slow down and look at all that stuff, and if we just celebrate, because when we pass, when we get over back to into the non-physical, or back to heaven, or however you want to look at it, once we get back to that place again, they are celebrating, like they are jumping up and down, clapping. They are so happy to see us. It is just like, oh, you did it. Like you did, wow, you did so much while you were there. And it's like, and even even if you didn't climb Mount Everest or write the Bible, or, whatever you think that you should have done in this lifetime, we do so much. And it's all the tiny moments. It's all the little things of saying something nice to a person, or not lashing out at a person, or loving them anyways, even though they didn't have the ability to love you the way that you felt like you should be loved. It's all those things. There was a woman that was talking about she was in this near-death experience, and she's telling God, like, I can't, talking about her husband that she's been divorced from, and like how horrible he was to their son. Like she could see him, constantly waiting for a phone call, and walking out to the mailbox, hoping that he's going to get something in the mail from his dad, and seeing his face when he walked back. And it's like, but then God showed her talking about his own son, like, I'm going to be such a better parent, than I'm going to love so much more the way that I feel like I should have been loved. So it's like we gain so much from these struggles, but I don't, like I said before, being an empath puts us into, if you really want to be with a person, and I don't say feel it to take it on, but hear what the person's saying, because you don't have to take it on, but you can be there empathetically. You can be there. You could still feel what they've gone through. There's just so much to be gained from each other. And it's not something like, oh God, please, you're hurting my ears, I don't want to hear that, because I was in that place. I mean, it was not that, maybe in a year ago, I was in that place, and it's like, I'm not there anymore, because that person, we've talked about before, when we start talking about our emotions and our feelings and these things that are bothering us out loud, we work through it. It takes away the power of that thing. So we allow that person to give up some of that, and we don't have to take it. We can clear ourselves. There's so many ways that we can do things differently than before. I sage all the time, but I know that being in a higher vibration is more important than me saging. If I'm in a high vibration and all the time, if I'm in the space of my love in my heart, unconditional love, there's no clearing of my energy. There's nothing that needs to be done, because I'm always safe. We only think that we can be harmed by something if we think we can be harmed by something. It's like there's just so much to gain from, and I say that probably a lot, but there is so much to be gained from everything. But that's because I've learned there's so much to be gained from everything. I was that person that shut myself off, and it's like, you didn't want to talk about this stuff because you didn't want to get that kind of attention. You didn't want to draw attention to yourself. You can't be hidden or unseen if people keep seeing all your stuff, hearing all your stuff. Even though we realize it, there's nothing that's hidden. There really isn't, because when we see the bigger picture, we see everything. It's not just one thing. We see everything. You can feel their energy. It's like people talking about these near-death experiences, and like you could hear colors. Like you could, and it's not something that we see here. You could hear the water, but it wasn't a language that we know, but you could hear it. You knew it. Everything was by telepathy. It's like we're so much more capable than the limited beliefs that we've learned while in this physical incarnation. I don't know. Okay. At this present moment.
There you go.
So we're so much bigger. So like, create your fantasies. Like but they're not fantasies. Like if you're creating your own world right now, create your own world. What does that look like? Like, I'm freaking walking around happy all the time. My family's around, that we're laughing, we're playing in the grass, we're, whatever. We're drawing, we're coloring, we're singing, we're dancing, we're celebrating life. That's the whole thing. To celebrate everything that we're here, celebrate these experiences, all of them.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's like giving yourself permission. Give yourself permission. It's okay that I laugh, even though my spouse just transitioned. It's okay to love, even though my parent has crossed over. It's okay. And live. And so living by your own design, meaning like Bev just said, is see it happening now. So she could sit in this chair that she's in right now and just imagine like her daughter's coming, her grandkids are coming, they're just laughing and playing and having a great time. That in itself, and she's sitting in a room in a chair, it's not happening, but that in itself is raising her vibration because it's bringing so much joy to her heart to visualize that. And so you can do that with if you want the boat or the house or the new car or whatever, the new job with higher pay, create it in your mind, see it in your mind. That's going to raise your vibration. And that's where we want to be. We want to raise our vibration. And it's using your imagination. If you remember being a child, how much time you spent in your imagination, how incredible that was and how fun it was, how playful it was. And then as adults, we're like, oh, we can't do that. What is that? That's our creativity. That's the creative side of us. That's the playful side of our spirit that's saying, no, create it, because even in your mind, you're going to feel better. As long as you stay in the space of creativity and playfulness. If you get into the space of, well, I want it, but I don't have it, it lowers your vibration. We don't want to be there. We just want to be in the imagination of it and how fun it is. I watch these movies, like these fantasy movies, and I'm like, whoever wrote this had one hell of an imagination, because I don't know how they come up with these creatures and these colors and these dynamic. I'm just like, that's super cool. And that takes a big imagination to be able to do that. And so I'm just like, I want to be in that space more. I want to be in my creativity and my imagination more, because it's fun, because it's lighthearted, because it can be exhilarating. And I can sit here in the space I'm in and raise my vibration because of it. And that also affects our manifestation state. Like, we want to be in a higher vibrational state. And if you're focused on, oh, I just lost this person, or this happened, or that happened. Okay, great. Not great. It happened. I get it. I get there's emotions attached to it. How long do you want to stay in it though? Because that also affects your life and what you're manifesting in your life. It's like when we have those heavy emotions in us, we're clogging our drain, we're clogging our pipes of creativity, we're clogging the being able to manifest what we desire. We're creating stuckness. But when we raise our vibration, now those pipes open up and things flow. And being in the flow is a lot more fun, a lot more, so much more easier than being in the lower vibrational emotions and creating so much resistance to your joy, right? We stay in the low vibrational emotions and we create resistance to being joyful. Joy is our natural state of being in our spirit. So we're creating resistance to be who we truly are. And then you wonder why your life's fucked.
Blocking the flow, man. You're blocking the flow. Something that kind of hits me a lot lately is we talk about ego a lot, and that kind of sometimes kind of bad. I also feel like our ego is our inner child, but our inner child, because they're throwing that temper tantrum or they're reacting out of behaviors they learned up to the age of 7 or whatever. That's how they learned how to deal with things, how to cope with whatever happens in their experience. And sometimes that's a temper tantrum, or however that looks as an adult, it's still a temper tantrum. But it's when those moments happen, it's just embracing that inner child, just like it is embracing that inner child when you were talking about, laughing and having that curiosity and the being able to see. We could create so much like that when we were kids. I could create all the time. I made paper purses and money and cards and all kinds. You just make all kinds of things. You're just creating, whether it actually comes into form or not at that time, but it's creating. And a lot of times for me, that was like escaping too. For me, was reading books was escaping whatever was going on at the time. Because I used to love to read books. I tried, but I also got praised for oh, she's read this many books and she's been, so I would just keep reading books, more and more books. So it was, I was at some point, I probably wasn't doing it for myself, but so it's like really just being, I can be aware of that now and I can embrace that child. Like, you were perfect this whole time. Like, all that time, you didn't have to have anybody's approval. It never mattered what anybody else thought about you. It only ever mattered what we thought about ourselves. Because we talked earlier, it was, we can be our worst critic. We can be our, we can put ourselves into such an abusive, oh my gosh, it's just such an uncomfortable place to be. But once you start getting past all that stuff, your everything changes. Like, you start seeing so much more. You have more clarity. You can, things are like, even just to see out in the world, it's clearer. It's like there's so much to gain from going through processes from, and I'm not telling you that you have to work, but like asking yourself when you're experiencing these things, like, what is this teaching me? What do I need to know right now? We bring this up a lot, but it's so true. It's so relevant. And I do it all the time. I'm constantly doing it. What does this mean to me? Why is this showing up for me like this? And it's like, sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's, I just need to feel the emotion of that. Maybe I'll have a dream, a reoccurring dream, and it's like it reoccurs because there's something I haven't learned from it. It's just like being in life. If something keeps showing up as an experience in your life, similar experience over and over and over again, there's a reason that it's showing up for you. And it's for you to start asking questions. It's for you to start seeing what the bigger picture is. And we don't know what that even means until you start asking questions about these things. But that's where really a lot of my growth has happened. And of course, it guides you to read certain books. It guides certain teachers to be around you. It's, there's just, there's so many amazing things that are happening right now all the time, because we have an awareness of it, because we can talk about it, because we can even watch near death experiences. I can hear people talk about it. I can read their books. This wasn't something that was acceptable before. Some of these people that experienced near death experiences, even back in the 1980s, were military men that had gone through such horrific things that have happened. And it's like they can, and then they come out of this place, because when they come out and when they wake back up in their body and stuff, they just want to share this experience with everybody. And everybody's like, oh yeah, well, a lot of people talk like this crazy. It was from the anesthesia. It was from this. It was from, and it's like, it's so easy to take on someone else's belief, but you have to know these are your experiences. It's not up to another. It's never up to another, because they're just only speaking from what they've experienced in their life. But it's like, but we're now in a place where we can hear people that are talking like that. There's going to be an audience for people like that that say, thank you so much for sharing this. Instead of like the one man, he ended up getting divorced from his wife. He really struggled with wanting to share all this stuff. And I can only imagine, because I've been around people that are military, and how they might have their beliefs and, you know, the way they think, and just, it's just different. And to have that experience, and that, you know, even during, while they're even in the military, like what has happened to them. And it's like the understanding is like, why is this happening now? And it's like, then they start saying, well, I know this is a story that I'm going to be sharing. It's just not right now. And we're in a space where it is right now. We're so lucky to be in this place where we are right now. It's just amazing, regardless of our experiences. And we've all gone through stuff, all of us, every single person. We could see someone else that's rich and think they've had the easiest life and everything else. You just don't know. And you can see the person that's, you know, poverty, would be labeled poverty level, that is the happiest person, but we still don't know what their experiences have been, because it's just how they perceive things. It's how they grew from things. It's not how they let all that stuff pin them down and hold them back, how we let ourselves get held back. It's, there's just so much to feel. And when you're trying to control everything that you feel, and when you're trying to build up these walls to protect your heart because you've been hurt before, you're just blocking all this wonderfulness from coming in. You initially will feel that some of the other stuff that was uncomfortable because it needed to be felt. Then after that, it's like there's so much joy.
When you talk about having a stage and people listening to the near-death experiences, that was the case with Anita Moorjani, her book, Dying to Be Me. She wasn't really going to share her story. And so it was Wayne Dyer who found out about her story. And that's how she became publicly known, because he kind of encouraged her to share her story because so many people needed to hear it. And on so many levels, because it had to do with healing and crossing over and what's on the other side and why we're here. And so, yeah, the fear of, if I talk about this, people are going to think I'm crazy. Now they're going to put me on medication. Then they're going to, commit me to a padded walled room. And it's like, it's not safe to share my story. It's not. And that, again, puts us in that survival mode where the little girl says, we are not doing this because it's not safe. We used our voice when we were little. We got in trouble. We got criticized. We got judged. And so, there's a reason why Wayne Dyer found out about Anita Moorjani. And Anita Moorjani, in her own way, has given other people permission, not directly, not saying, hey, Bev, you have my permission to tell your story. It was giving because she allowed herself to be publicly exposed, but publicly vulnerable with her story, that more people are sharing their stories and more people are listening. And that's really important, that we're listening. A lot of people listen. They like to talk all the time and stay busy. And it's like, no, listen. Right? Because you can tell, being, when you're in the energy of somebody who is lying, who's fabricating a story, and somebody who is actually telling their story from their heart space, like they know it to be true within themselves, and just feel that love of their experience, you can tell the difference energetically. If you listen to the energy of what's being received, you get to determine, yeah, you know what, I think this guy's blowing smoke up my ass, or you know what, he's really compassionate about what he experienced. So who am I to say that's not true? You can feel it. It's the energy of it.
That's right. And the reason that Wayne Dyer had heard about Anita Moorjani was through Mira Kelly. So the author of Beyond Past Lives, she was in a group that they used to email each other back and forth, these spiritual, like these stories, these uplifting stuff. And she had ran into, I don't know how she knew Anita, but she shared the story. She said at the end of the conversation, she said, Mira Kelly, as she's talking to Wayne Dyer on the phone, because she's setting up to go do a past life regression with him. She says she feels compelled, and she's questioning why she even feels compelled. But she listens to her intuition, and her intuition tells her, hey, I want to share the story with you. Can I send it to your email or fax it to you? And he gave her the fax, didn't ask any questions, didn't ask what the story was about or anything, and then sent over Anita Moorjani's story. And then after he had heard that, he did. He encouraged her, like, you got to get this in a book. You got to get this out there. So it's awesome. It's awesome how things happen. And that goes to, maybe that's how we wrap things up, is letting people know, paying attention to your intuition. Sometimes it feels like because I do this. Sometimes I'll be like, after I say it, I'm like, why did I say that? And then I'll reassure myself that it was meant to be said. It was, however it was took or taken. I mean, what the process was, it's not for me to have an understanding for it. It was just for me to state it. So trust your intuition and follow through and do those things. If you felt compelled to share a story with someone else or tell somebody something, you don't even have to know why, because a lot of times I'll say something and I'll tell a person, I don't know why I told you this, and then they tell me the but. So then I get my confirmation right there. So, and that's just everyone's learning. Trust your intuition, because your intuition is going to guide you. It's always going to guide you to the right place.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. And you know what? I'd read Anita's story. I knew that there was a third party who gave Wayne Dyer the information, and then Wayne got in connection with Anita. So isn't it interesting that I brought that up and you're like, yeah, it was Mira Kelly. This is the book I'm reading, right? Yeah. So it's just, it's things like that. That's where we listen. That's where we acknowledge that there's something bigger going on. And as you were talking about the connection with Mira Kelly and Wayne Dyer, I just got like chills all over my body. I'm like, ooh, this is so cool. Because to me, that's like, we are being guided to share this information, and we're speaking from a space of our heart space. Like, we feel that this is real for us, and it's safe for us to share what we feel is working, what works for us. And we're not the only two on the planet talking about this stuff. So, yes, our intuition is our guidance. Our intuition is learning to trust ourselves, which is huge. Just in that's a whole nother conversation. But it's time, my friends, to listen to that gut feeling. When you listen to the gut feeling and you do what that intuitive message, information brought to you, the more you do it, again, it's a practice. The more you do it, the more you trust yourself, the more you're trusting that gut feeling, that intuition, and the more ease there will be in your life. So,
Absolutely.
with that, thank you so much for being here with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev. We typically do this every single week. We have missed 1 week now because of unforeseen circumstances. However, we love to hear your comments and questions. And thank you for hanging out with us. If you're watching the replay, we appreciate your time and energy, because you could be doing something else. And so thank you. We value your time. And so we hope, and actually we know we're bringing valuable information, beneficial information. What we hope is that it's having an impact in your life and helping you in your life journey. So any last words, Miss Bev?
I'll say make a magical week.
Have an incredible week, and we'll see you next time.